Hi, I'm Jeff Cohn of Brave Dialogue, and I have the distinct pleasure and honor of having State Representative Debbie Meyers Martin of the 38th District with me today to give us her annual update of the progress of things in the 30th District. How are you, State Representative Meyers, Debbie Meyers Martin?
Well, I'm doing well after the marathon session that we just held in Springfield. I'm glad to be back in the district, glad to be able to interact and interface with people who live in my district and get back to some of the good work that we started before we ended up going to Springfield.
Great. Well, you know, you've been doing some good work. The last report that you gave us in the last year, there were a lot of positive things that had taken place, and I just want to give you an opportunity just to share with the viewing audience, because many of the people that watch this Comcast viewing live in the 38th District. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right into how things have been going over the last year since we last met.
Okay, well, first of all, and I have to start with the last and maybe work my way backwards. But during this last spring session, which was condensed, we actually adjourned much earlier than we normally did. We adjourned on April 9th. However, a lot of good work was done in this session, including us passing our fourth balanced budget in 4 years under the leadership of Governor Pritzker. And during that session, we provided a lot of relief to families. I think it was $1.8 billion in aid to families, including suspending the grocery tax and freezing gas tax and expanding actually the property tax rebate that everyone will receive, increasing and expanding the earned tax income tax credit permanently, by the way. And then I do sit on higher ed appropriations. And so there was $68 million put in the budget for higher education. We actually increased the monetary award program by $122 million. So that's for the MAP grants. We spent $9.6 billion to fully fund our pension obligations for fiscal year 2023. $250 million went out for public safety. And then finally, DCEO has released all of its $250 million for the business-to-business grants to help small businesses. And so I'm very proud of the fact that over 80 businesses in my district, the 38th District, received grants. And so it was just really a very good year, a good time to be in Springfield, especially after the past 2 years of COVID and COVID restrictions and all of the challenges that we faced during those years. So it really was a feel-good moment. Unfortunately, we had to stay there for between Friday and Saturday, 21 hours straight. Okay. And so it was almost like, we're not leaving here until we have a balanced budget.
So it seems like there's a lot of esprit de corps and team play under the leadership of Speaker Welch and Governor Pritzker these days in Springfield. So it's really exciting to see that things are getting done on behalf of the people of the state.
Absolutely. And I have to give Speaker Welch credit because in previous administrations, from what I understand, it was, there were bills that were filed, but they never saw the light of day. They never were called in committee. And Speaker Welch has made a great effort to make sure that those bills are called in committee. And of course, it's our responsibility to get it out of there and to the floor. But he has really made a great difference in that. And legislators are very excited and pleased and thankful for him making that effort.
And on both sides of the aisle also, I think that leaders are pleased with that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So what key pieces of legislations have you been involved in, authored, and or committee work over the last that, you know, you want to let people know that you've been specifically involved in?
Well, specifically, and as I said, it was a condensed year, so there were sometimes, you know, long hours in committee, but I was able to get my stroke awareness and education bill through both houses, and it did pass, and it's actually on its way to the governor's desk, which will create a partnership between Governor State University and the Illinois Department of Public Health to create in the Southland a stroke awareness and education campaign, because we saw numbers that demonstrate that in the Southland in particular, stroke survival and stroke effective treatment was very lacking in our community. And so this will create more awareness and more education through that partnership. It was subject to appropriations, but I worked diligently to make sure that that was appropriated. And I am hoping at the end of the day that that money can be released so that can be an added benefit to address some of the health disparities in the Southland. So I was very excited about that. And then, of course, I had the charitable trust bill, which actually allows the treasurer's office to put more money into grants for nonprofit and charitable organizations, which again helps our community because we are the ones that really need for resources to flow through our towns and our municipalities. And then the bank on legislation that I actually passed in 2019. It took a year. It took a year for it to be implemented, but I have to say that the comptroller's office, Comptroller Mendoza, has made a great effort to make that active. And so to the point that now I will be hosting over the summer subject matter hearings on financial literacy in schools. Starting in high school and maybe even earlier, but we're going to listen to testimony on how that can be implemented, how it can be effective for our young people, because we do know that there are many adults that could use some financial literacy. So if we can start early, maybe we can, you know, turn the tide of some of those woes that we see in the financial arena.
Yep. And, you know, that's interesting that you bring that up. I'm glad to hear that the bank on is making steady progress. And, you know, I just have to mention when my daughter, part of her entry exam to Wellesley College was an actual financial entry test. They had to show financial proficiency in certain areas before they could actually enroll in school. So I like to see that you all do that. And because it is very important for millennials to know how to write a check, how to still balance a bank account, and how to manage their own. So I'm super glad to hear that you're doing that. Will you be working with ISB in terms of, will they be part of this to potentially create the Illinois State Board of Education?
I think that would be an excellent idea for them to participate in the subject matter hearings, because we certainly want their input on how policy could be shaped in order to make that a successful venture.
Absolutely. So Dr. Ayala, I'm sure that she would be anxious to partner with you on that. So I look forward to getting more updates on it. So what's your aspiration for your stroke awareness bill? What do you want over the next 5 years? What would you like to see the impact of that piece of legislation? If we could just spend 30 seconds on that.
Okay, I would like to see some good outcomes where 2 to 1 African-American men are not dying from strokes because of the inability to get the correct treatment in enough time. For stroke victims, it is crucial that that be diagnosed as a stroke and then treated accordingly, because you only have a small window in order to make corrective treatment of a stroke. So I would like to see that change. I would like to see people not become debilitated because of a stroke, when actually the outcomes could be much better if in fact there was stroke education and awareness amongst EMTs and hospitals to make sure that when the patient is transferred, they are going to the correct facility.
Okay, good. Those would be nice to see and to follow over the next few years to see the results of that and to actually track the data as well.
Absolutely.
State Representative, thank you for sharing that. Sounds like you've been busy. Now I know last time you were on, you brought a lot of money to the district. And so this is a one piece of the segment that I'd really enjoy hearing from you is how much money, how much bacon, how much, people don't eat bacon, how much fish was brought back to the district?
Well, I'm happy to say, and maybe I should maybe make a caveat to just explain that you can get money appropriated in the budget based on your request, based on the needs of your community. Okay. But once it's been appropriated, you have to get that money released. And so this is what I have been focusing on for this particular year, because again, it was a condensed session. But I'm happy to say that, the $1 million that I had was able to obtain for Prairie State College for workforce development for minorities. And so we want to see that implemented. And I will be meeting with them this week, actually, to make sure that those monies are going in the right direction. I just received from DCEO that $500,000 in stormwater management will finally be released to the village of Richton Park. I just got word that the $1 million that I wanted for Southland Development Center Authority will finally be released in the upcoming months. And then I also, and I think I didn't mention this before, but $1 million for 2 grand storage tanks in the village of Hazelcrest. And then we are really working diligently to complete that release of the over $750,000 in roadway improvements for Country Club Hills. So those are things that, I've had to follow up and make sure that I was persistent in that request. And so I have gotten word. I've met with DCEO, I've met with the governor's people, the Office on Management, Budget and Management, to make sure that those dollars are released.
So it's not a matter of just sitting in a chamber and having conversations. I mean, there's a lot of work that takes place to actually get to the results of bringing funding back to the to the district.
It is. I mean, you absolutely have to remain persistent and consistent to make sure that those dollars, because after all, there's 118 representatives in the General Assembly, and they're all trying to get funding for their particular municipalities, for their organizations. And one of the things that, I'm really happy about was that, the mayors were quite concerned about LGDF, the Local Government Distributive Fund, and the fact that those dollars have been cut going back to Governor Ronner. And we have been asking from that point to now to restore those dollars, because they are very important to local municipalities in terms of maintaining service and being accessible to their residents in terms of their needs as residents in those towns. And so this year we had heard that LGDF was not going to be restored yet again.
Mm.
And the mayors had met with the governor, and there had been talks. Well, finally, the Southland legislators said, if we cannot restore the LGDF, we're not so sure we can support a budget, if we can't get those funds restored. I'm happy to say that the governor then called me to a meeting, as well as other legislators, but separately, and was able to say to us that he is making a permanent increase in LGDF yearly. So rather than having to fight every year, each year incrementally, LGDF will be increased until it is back to its original level of 10%. And so that was really a win-win, because it was very important to the municipalities, and not just the Southland. Mayors throughout the state were hurting because of those funds being cut. So we're very happy about that development.
Good.
And again, it took, us fighting in unison, sticking together, and saying that this was something that we needed for all of our communities.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure that that Mayor Reinbold and Mayor Ellsbury, and to name a few, and Sheila Karen Chalmers, were all happy about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I have spoken with many of them, and they are, including South Suburban mayors and managers. So.
Oh, right. Okay, good. Good. Well, good job on that. And, let's make sure that the money, now, will you have to go through the process of making sure that it's released as well in that process, or is that automatic money that comes to each of the towns? Is there additional work that has to be done by
Well,
you?
no, that
villages?
will be automatic. We won't really have to keep going back to the drawing board on that.
Okay.
So that's one of the exciting things about it, is that, the governor made that promise that it would be permanent in terms of those incremental increases.
Good. Well, congratulations on that. How satisfied were you with the final results of the redistricting?
Well, I would say that for the most part, I am very satisfied with the results of redistricting. For all intents and purposes, I was able to keep most of my district intact.
Okay.
But on the other hand, I did lose some communities, but only because I gained more constituents, I guess, in other communities. So for instance, Flossmoor, I only had one subdivision in Flossmoor. The rest of Flossmoor was represented by Will Davis and Anthony DeLuca. So I lost that one subdivision, but in return, I actually received more of Oak Forest. I always represented Oak Forest, but now I have more of Oak Forest. I have more of Frankfurt. I even have more of Olympia Fields.
Okay.
But I did lose Markham, but again, I only had one subdivision in Markham. So, but I kept all of Country Club Hills and all of Matteson, most of Richton Park, more of Olympia Fields, as I said, more of Tinley Park, more of Frankfurt. So I still maintain my 109,000 people that I represent.
Nice. So you have some new faces and people to get to know over
Yes.
the next election cycle.
And I look forward to that. I look forward to meeting the new people that I represent, because I want them to know me as my current constituents do, and that I really encourage them to reach out to me.
And so I'm sure that your office is busy trying to make sure that they know who you are over the next few months.
Yes, absolutely.
So what were you most proud of during the last legislative cycle?
Well, as I said, I was very excited about the LGDF incremental change so that municipalities will receive those increments. But we also were able to pass legislation that we also have been trying to get through since I've been in the General Assembly, and that was the Southland Reactivation Act. And that will allow municipalities that have parcels that have been vacant and off the tax rolls, it will allow them to revitalize those parcels and make them more attractive and saleable. So that was something that, we have been fighting for, as I said, since 2019 at the very least. So I'm very proud that we were able to finally accomplish that. I'm also, just very proud of the dollars that were able to come back to the small businesses, because we do know the small businesses are the lifeblood of communities. And when you don't have small business that are successful and vibrant, and are not sustainable, it really does damage the community.
Okay.
I also was happy about able to go back to the funding for education for K through 12. We were able to maintain that new dollars of $350 million for K through 12. So, and then of course, the criminal justice reform, the fact that we're going to be adding more cameras on the expressways, that there are dollars that are now being devoted to addressing the carjacking issues in our community. It has been really a very exciting year with a lot of good things happening, not only for the Southland, but for the entire state. But we do know that some of the gun violence that we have seen in the South Side of Chicago and the South suburbs is something that needed to be addressed. So I'm very happy that the state police have gotten into the investigative mode of helping communities with some of their expressway crimes, gun violence. And then, of course, as I said, the cameras on the expressways to be able to detect those perpetrators will be very important.
Good. So you have really matured in this, and it's exciting to listen to you. Been watching and following your work since you initially got elected. And you've really accomplished a lot of meaningful things for the Southland. And it's really nice to hear that people appreciate the effort that you're putting in and the results that you're getting. But with success, there are also sometimes things that are disappointing. And so what has been most disappointing over the last legislative cycle for you?
Well, at the top of that list would be the inability to move forward with the South Suburban Airport. We started off gung-ho in 2019 because the governor had put $162 million into the budget to complete the purchase of land for the airport, which was 10% still needed to be purchased, and the upgrades to I-57. So that was disappointing because over the past 4 years, that had been inactive in terms of a project. But I am happy to say, cautiously, that this year, the state, meaning IDOT, Illinois Department of Transportation, has awarded a contract to a company to begin phase 1 engineering and the environmental assessment and the rework for the airport exchange on I-57. And the company that they've chosen is actually an international company that does major infrastructure projects, including airports. So I say again, I'm cautiously optimistic because they have been brought on board to do that initial phase 1 engineering, which has to be done. I mean, it has to be done in order for us to move forward. So that is progress. That is a step in the right direction. But overall, we felt that we would have been much further along in the process by this point. So
Okay.
it was a disappointment, but it looks as though, brighter days will occur. So
Yeah. I would like to have a follow-up with you on that when we have more time, specifically on the airport. And we'll come back to that conversation at a future date, because there's
Okay.
more that I'd like to learn about that. And Congresswoman Robin Kelly's office would like to be a part of that conversation. And I'm hoping to get have the governor's office as part of it as well, so we can get more specificity in terms of what's taking place. In the last couple of minutes that we have, I wanted to find out from you, what key messages, do you have for for the 38th district as we close out this segment?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to encourage all of your listeners to reach out to my office, because I want to have that relationship. I want to have that dialogue. And I say that all the time, that I really want people to know their representative, know what services are available through my office as well as others. So I say that first and foremost. And then secondly, which is extremely important, is that people must vote. Come June, you must vote in the primary and in the general election. We've heard from both our federal representatives like Congresswoman Kelly to our county representatives that this is going to be an important election, maybe even more important than 2020, where we are fighting for to maintain control in Washington, as well as in the state. So I just encourage people not to sit at home, but to vote, both in June and in November. And then secondly, I continue my battle with IDOT to make sure that they are providing equitable service and materials in the 38th district and the Southland generally. I'm still having conversations about equity for minority contractors working on projects here in the Southland, and that they have equitable access to projects. And then finally, working so that our healthcare disparities, as I said in the beginning, don't continue. I mean, we always knew that there was some disparity in the healthcare arena. However, COVID showed us just how dire that situation is. And so I will continue working. We fought to keep the safety net hospitals open. We're fighting now in terms of legislation to cap prescription drugs.
Right.
To make sure that insurance companies have to provide some kind of review on rate increases. So we are constantly trying to be that strong voice in Springfield for the people that we represent.
Well, State Rep Debbie Meyers Martin, it's been a great pleasure listening to your story, and to how you have represented the 38th district. And I'm wishing you all the best in the upcoming election. What is the phone number for your office if you would like to make sure that people have that?
It is 708-833-7010.
Thank you very much, State Representative Debbie Meyers Martin. It's been a great pleasure. I am Jeff Cohn of Brave Dialogue. Thank you for being with us today. We look forward to catching up with State Representative Debbie Meyers Martin in the near future. Thank you very much for being with us.
And thank you for having me.